In the last 24 hours, several things have been now confirmed that were, well, very important to our prior analysis, and I wanted to follow up on what this essentially means for the next week or two to come, and what what Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto landscape is likely headed towards. Now, first things first, I wanted to follow up on the Dixie chart right here. We did look at this one earlier this week as very likely putting in a local high, and even if you're super bullish or super bearish, it very likely looking for a decent pullback from here. I would still estimate that this one does come further south, somewhere around about 106 and change, 106 and a quarter to 106 and a half region, somewhere around basically this area right here, which very likely does give a bit of a bit of a tailwind for risk assets. Of course, Trump has come out and said that he's going to demand that interest rates are lowered. Seems like a difficult job to me. I mean, he can't actually do that, and it doesn't really seem to me that the Fed is in a position to do that. But hey, who knows what that means? Again, that would be another tailwind, but in this case, Dixie is responding to that nonetheless. So it's about the perception of it is my point. It's about the perception of it. So let me get into my notes right over here. Yeah, now I want to get into the major things that have happened in the last 24 hours that we were looking at from yesterday's video. This will be a little bit more on the short side, but that's all that it really needs to be, at least at this point. 5-day time frame on CME, which closed last night, did close above the momentum pivot, which was $101,000. And more importantly, upon this new open, with it crossed the upside in the critical zone, which is an indication of very strong positive momentum, although probably not going to last for forever. But the pivot has gone down. In my experience, when you see price close above, momentum pivot, and then that pivot on the next open goes down, it's usually going to continue at least a little bit in that same direction. And now the pivot is at just under $99,000. So I would go as far to say that as long as Bitcoin's above $99,000, you're very likely looking at the move. I think this very likely could be the move, honestly. When I go over here to spot price action, we can see that this one is also going to be crossing the upside as well. More importantly, on spot price action, which is closing tomorrow night, by the way, is that volatility is on the ever-loving lows down here. So expansion from these lows, really can be a pretty mega move. I mean, on the lower end, 30%, on the upper end, 50%. I won't go through the full rigmarole in analyzing the past historical returns for this one on this video, because like I said, I do want to keep this one on the shorter side, but that is there, and I do think that is rather important as well. And of course, that also is going to be combined with the 5-day 5 EMA setup, which did fire off actually about 10 days ago now. This was in very early January, or January 11th, I guess, so kind of a little bit earlier. At about 100,000, about $100,000, and this strategy will remain open as long as Bitcoin is above that red 5 exponential moving average. And this is the same strategy that we've used to catch all of the major trending moves for Bitcoin. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that when you have this setup available, any major move is possible. And you can't really be expecting any sort of major move as long as the setup is not available. And it doesn't guarantee that every fucking time is going to be, a win. Hey, they changed this down here, fucking bastards. Oh man, this is gonna piss me off because now I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. What? Where did my strike rate go? There it is. It's 39.5. Yeah, 39.5%. So throughout the history of Bitcoin, this setup has worked out 39.5% of the time. I should add, however, most of the times, even where it did work out, there were actually very, very small gains. But every time that Bitcoin saw a large, tremendous gain, similar to what we saw back on this open at about $63,000, which closed somewhat recently in December at about well over $90,000. Well, those big moves are going to be possible when we see that this setup is active. So again, it's caught everything in the last few years. I mean, it's caught all of the major moves for Bitcoin. But again, it does just imply that as long as Bitcoin is riding this moving average, which is right now just around $101,000, upside more likely. So to kind of put it down into a sound bit similar to yesterday and the day prior, as long as Bitcoin now is above, let's call it $101,000, I'm looking at this as very likely the move, or at least potential to be the move for Bitcoin to actually break out and continue onwards and upwards. Of course, the 5-day time frame also closed yesterday night for CME, and CME did close above the median. It did close above the median at 103, it was about 103 yesterday. So this, today thus far, it is using the median as a bit of a bouncing point. So I'm looking at this as, as a reclaim. Now, technically, I want to see an open and closure above the median, but, it has to start somewhere. And, well, why not here, I suppose. Now, this next period won't close for another 6.5 days, so it's not going to be like super, super useful. But of course, we do have the weekly closing later today for CME as well. So we got the 5-day yesterday or last night, and now we have the weekly coming in today. And the weekly will also have a chance to continue to maintain above the median here, which it actually did reclaim last week, by the way, assuming that Bitcoin does close today above about $105,000. So I would say in the short term, the next sort of, confirming signal I'd be looking for is for Bitcoin to close above $105,000. And that would be, and that would essentially give me the green light to say next week, end of January. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what we said this whole fucking month. But very end of January, Bitcoin can actually make a leg, or is most likely to make a leg up if it is going to make a leg up at all. So understand, the interplay between 105 and 101. Bitcoin closed today above 105 on CME. Very likely, the probability of this thing actually potentially breaking out next week goes up a lot. And if Bitcoin does close below, okay, maybe maybe more consolidation. But as long as Bitcoin is above 101. Generally going to be bullish here. Anyways, yes, so we've got that. I'm just looking at a few other things. Okay, yes, we got the weekly CME, we got the weekly HPDR, we got that as well. Nice. And one last thing here. Oh, whoops, I guess over on this chart. Yeah, just to follow up on kind of the short term from yesterday as well. Does look like Bitcoin has put in a drive of hidden bullish divergence here on the 12-hour time frame. Connecting this low with this low right here. So short term, it does have a little bit of of upside momentum. I'm curious what our stochastic momentum oscillator says. I forgot to mention that that weekly, again, CME, which is closing today, will turn back up in the critical zone if Bitcoin closes above 102,300. So I'd still put a lot of emphasis on the 105 region, but you can see how many other things would be working in the background if especially that 105 pivot is met by tonight's closure. So that'd be sort of the next thing to be mindful of. I think that's pretty much it for me. Of course, as long as Bitcoin is below 105, there is still potential for a greater pullback and consolidation lower. But again, I'm moving up now the pivot for a downside failure from 100,000 now to 101,000. If Bitcoin closes below $101,000 on a higher term time frame, I would be looking for a pretty decent pullbacks into the mid to low 90s. But until then, this is shaping up more soon, I suppose. Anyways, that's what I'll leave off on this video. As always, wish you the best. Take care and see you next time.